and 20 says, and I wrote this out for you, bless the Lord, and that is the capital L-O-R-D. And when you see that in Scripture, that is Jehovah. That is Jehovah God. Bless the Lord, ye his angels, that excel in strength. And so we see that they are extremely powerful, certainly more so than we are. Matthew 28:2 tells us that it was an angel that rolled back the stone from Jesus' tomb when he arose on that third day. Okay, otherwise, you know, it would have required the strength of many to be able to do the job of that one angel. Acts 5:19, and later you can see it in Acts 12 and verse 7, that it was an angel that opened the door, the prison doors for the apostles, and then later Peter's chains were broken by the angel. Certainly Peter could not do that for himself. I mean, just think about it. 2 Thessalonians 1:7, this scripture refers to him as his mighty angels. That again is 2 Thessalonians 1:7. So you can see just from a few scriptures that there's a little bit of a temptation there for man to worship angels. But as John was told in Revelation, see thou do it not. Okay? Because though angels are mighty, they are not almighty. Actually, I wrote this one out for you. Psalm 72:18 says, bless thee, Jehovah God, the Lord, all caps, the God of Israel, who only doeth wondrous things. What does that tell you? From this verse alone, it shows us that the power of God, anything that is powerful has to get its power from the source of power, and that is God. He is the source of all power. Now, I wanted to look with you at the verses in Acts chapter 27, 23. This is our example. I just found you a little example to be able to show you this is proper. Paul has it all in order here, okay? Paul, there's been a shipwreck and one thing led to another, and anyway, he's talking to the men here, chapter 27 and verse 23. Acts 27:23 through 25. For there stood by me this night the angel of God. Did you hear that? There is an angel standing by Paul. There stood by me this night the angel of God, whose I am and whom I serve. Who was he saying that he belonged to and that he served? God. Yes. He said, very good, because some would take this to be an angel, and I don't know how. But anyway, for there stood by me this night the angel of God, whose I am and whom I serve, saying, fear not, Paul, the angel said, thou must be brought before Caesar, and lo, God hath given thee all them that sail with thee. All right, none will be hurt. Wherefore, sirs, be of good cheer, for I believe God, that it shall be, even as it was told me. And so in these verses, Paul was receiving a message from the Lord. It was from his messenger, the angel of God, who stood beside him. Many would be prone to worship that supernatural being, but Paul said, but I serve God alone. I serve God alone. I worship him and not the angel. So that is our example, like we really needed one. I know you girls have got it all together, okay? But although angels, and we've seen it in last week, these angels can manifest themselves in bodily form. And wasn't that interesting to see that the angel in Lot's time was in bodily form? He talked about their feet. He talked about them eating and many things. We got to see that. And so they manifest themselves in bodily form throughout Scripture. But as Hebrews 1:14 and many other places tell us, they are spirits, not ghosts like you see in cartoons and different things, but they are spirits, so they are invincible. And because man is so prone to worship the works of his hands, we also see that throughout Scripture, and to commit idolatry, which God commands us not to do. It's probably a good thing that they are invincible to us. However, the works that they do can be seen visibly. So we're going to look at some of the works of these angels. You're already in Acts. Turn over to chapter 7 and verse 53. Let me show you a scripture there. thought this was very interesting. I had known it and forgotten it. It's just one of those things you study and then you've forgotten it. Actually, when we studied the covenant, we got to see this. Okay, Acts chapter 7, verse 53. Who have received the law by the disposition of angels and have not kept it. Disposition there means direction. This is Stephen. He's preaching to the council there. He's getting ready to lose his life. And he's saying to them, you who have received the law by the direction of angels and have not kept it. Actually, you can reference this right back to Deuteronomy. When Moses was on the mountain of Sinai and was receiving the instruction of the Lord for the 10 Commandments, later on it would become 613 because of their disobedience. Okay? But this law was given by God, but not directly. The scripture tells us here and about 3 other places in the New Testament, I do believe, that it was by angels, that they were the vehicle by which the commandments, the holy law of God was given to Moses. Okay? These are the things that angels are capable of handling. I mean, many, many things for God. When you look through Scripture, Old and New Testament, we see that angels are responsible for the revelation of God. We see it for prophets like Daniel and Zechariah. Over in the New Testament, the book of Revelation, John was entrusted with the book of Revelation given by the one that he was tempted to worship. And that was an angel which said, "Do it not." Okay? Very instrumental in the life of Christ and while he was here. We get to see angels now this is in Luke and chapter 1 and then Luke chapter 2. You don't have to turn there, but they pronounced or predicted and announced the birth of Christ. And then we see him, Matthew chapter 4 verse 11, that they ministered to him after his time of tempting of Satan in the wilderness. And then we see in Luke chapter 22 verse 33, Luke 22, 43, an angel was sent to strengthen him in the Garden of Gethsemane because of what lay ahead, the agony that lay ahead of him regarding the cross. Okay? And then Matthew 26, 53, I'm telling you, so many scriptures, and these are just a few. Matthew 26, 53 tells us that Jesus could have called for more than 12 legions of angels to come and spare him from the cross, but he did not do it. Matthew chapter 25 verse 31 tells us, and this little word just caught me, and I just had to think about it and do a little research for you, but Matthew 25:31 tells us that all the holy angels will return with Jesus at his second coming. I just had this picture of heaven just emptying itself of angels because Jesus himself spoke it. Of course, we know that every word is profitable and it's good. We can trust every word from anybody. But Jesus spoke it, and he said all of the holy angels will come with him at his second coming. So I thought, all those holy angels, how many are there? Well, we know of all the angels total in the beginning. Of that, 1/3 fell with Satan, became demons. 2/3 remain, but it never gives us a number. So, listen to this. There are references to angels all throughout Scripture. Deuteronomy 33 and 2 mentions 10,000. 2 Kings, I'm sorry, I'm going fast for some of your writing. Deuteronomy 33:2 is 10,000. 2 Kings 6 and 17 tells us there are a mountain full. And when we start talking about the host, I might just revisit that scripture. It's amazing. A mountain full, if you can picture it. Psalm 68 and 17 makes mention of 20,000 and thousands upon thousands. And we can't wrap our mind around it. Daniel 7 and 10 says there were thousands of thousands and 10,000 times 10,000 of angels. Matthew 26:53 that we just mentioned, Jesus was talking about, I could have called more than 12 legions of angels. One legion of angels can be anywhere between 3,000 and 6,000 in itself. Okay? Luke 2 and 13 talks about a multitude of angels. And then Revelation 5:11 states 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands of thousands. But then we find Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 22, which probably is just good to sum it all up. And it says, an innumerable company of angels. They're innumerable. You can't count them with your eyes. You just can't. God knows how many there are. So how many we do not know. But with that, just revelation of what we know, the thousands and thousands and thousands, do you think there's enough for each of us to have one? And then there's that all-pressing question of, do we each have our own guardian angel? Well, let's turn to Matthew chapter 18.